Would you like to take over now?
Thank you so much, Adil, and thank you so much, everyone who's so far joined us. Bismillah Rahman Rahim, and Assalamu alaikum, everyone, on behalf of LUMS and New Gen HR Consultancy, and all of the team who have gotten together this wonderful international webinar on challenges faced by HRM in technology-centric organizations in Pakistan. Well, today we have a wonderful panel with us, and we're very grateful to all of the panelists who have joined us already, and also to the many more panelists who will be joining us in the coming hour. I would really like to appreciate all of you because I can understand that it is Ramzan, and therefore it is very challenging to attend a long technology-centric webinar. So, ladies and gentlemen, and very honorable panelists, on behalf of LUMS and on behalf of NewGen, we would like to thank you for your time, and especially for this opportunity to learn from your experiences and also the different nuances of how technology-centric organizations basically tend to move forward and manage the HR in their own unique perspectives and dimensions. Ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, and all the people who are with us on Zoom and also on Facebook Live, I would like to introduce all of the panelists, and then I would like to request the panelists to take 5 minutes each to talk about their own understanding and their own experiences of HR in technology-centric organizations, and also the different aspects and impact of technology on human resource management. We are open to different subtopics, which include leadership development, management change handling, workforce training and development, adapting to innovation, job processes and compensation, retaining talented employees, recruiting technology-centric employees, workplace diversity, employee health and safety, and performance appraisal in the context of technology. We have with us a very amazing panel with us. We have some people who are young, we have some people who are very experienced, some people who have worked abroad, people who have been thoroughly engaged with human resource within Pakistan, and again, very academically accomplished also. I would like to start with the introduction, and then we will begin with the 5 minutes for each panelist. And later on, we'll be taking the questions as they come, both on chat and also many questions which have come to us from many members of the audience. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to introduce with us the very honorable Ali Fareed Khwaja Sahab, who is the chairman of KSB Securities, England, UK. Ali Fareed Khwaja is not only the chairman, but has also extensive experience in building fintech in Pakistan. He has worked with Asian Development Bank. He has also, prior to KSB, been a partner at Autonomous Research, an investment research company by Alliance Bernstein. He has been the CFO of SafeCharge PLC and also the CFO of SafeCharge Card Services. He has worked extensively in England. His education is as basically as a chartered financial analyst and also an MSc in financial economics from Oxford. He also has a double majors from LUMS in Pakistan, and we look forward to him to share his experiences and his vast knowledge in this particular area. We also have with us Madam Mariam Arshad Mahmood, who is the founder and director of Impact Dynamics and is also lead Google Business Group. We see that she has basically started her own financial startup and is working with different tech and soft skill organizations. She's a trainer. She has been training in different areas. She has also extensively traveled, and in Peshawar, she is mentoring different entrepreneurship startups, besides being a mentor at the Tech Camp South Asia, at the Digital U Summit, at TEDx IM Sciences, participating in different talks around the world, and basically showing the light forward to our youth across Pakistan. Thank you so much, madam, for being a part of this particular panel discussion. We have with us Mr. Haris Salman, who's the technical talent acquisition specialist at Careem. He again has a very versatile experience in HR consulting and has been mentioned as the top 10 HR persons to consult in 2020. He has also worked in Technologics and also the Founder Technologies Global and Eminent Labs. Thank you so much, Haris Salman Saab, for being with us in this panel discussion. We have with us Mr. Abbas Ali Iqbal, who is the CEO at Strategic Business Consulting Group, UAE. He is again someone who has a very versatile experience and has been working in different positions. He has worked with Barclays Bank, the Standard Chartered Bank, with Laxon Group of Companies, with Mashreq Bank, and also with DHL. He has done consulting projects in 10 different countries, engaged with 50 different banks, and also trained over 50,000 people in the past decade. We have Shiraz Chaudhry Saab, who is the Human Resources Director at ShopDev Lahore. Shiraz Chaudhry Saab has a very versatile experience in HR. He has an over decade experience working with different tech-centric organizations in different areas, including talent acquisition and talent management and talent development and total reward management. He has worked in different areas, including software development and IT, e-commerce, automobile construction and manufacturing. And again, he has both national and global experience in the arena of human resource management. We have with us Madam Gulzar, Madam Manoor Gulzar, the head of technical recruitment, Keep Trucking Lahore. And Madam Manoor is known as a talent acquisition specialist. She has been working with different startups and also multinational companies. She's the head of technical recruitment right now with Keep Trucking. She has worked as a consultant also, and she possesses a very formidable understanding of a multitude of technologies and emerging technologies. She basically is a software engineer and also an expert in human resource management. Thank you so much, madam, for joining us. We have with us Madam Nimra Marcel, who is the HR director of Brackett Kaiser from Berkshire, UK. She has been working as the human resource director for many years and has been working in many large Fortune 500 organizations at an international level. She has worked with Unilever, with Coca-Cola. She has worked with GSK, with BSF, and other organizations. And again, she has been a change management par excellence. Thank you so much, madam, for being a part of this panel discussion. We have with us Mr. Arooj Sheikh, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Workstream Automation UK. Mr. Arooj is basically an engineer and has been working for the past 25 years hands-on in the IT sector. He's worked again in different countries. He's worked in senior positions with Nokia, has worked with the Deutsche Bank, with RBS, with Santander, the Bank of America, with Merrill Lynch, and many other organizations. He is a motivational speaker and is a very sought-after speaker on fintech platforms around the world. So we look forward to Mr. Arooj Sheikh joining us in a little while. We have with us Shafaq Salim, who's the head of HR KSB Securities Karachi, and Madam Shafaq Salim is a highly experienced HR professional, and she's worked in different capacities, and right now is leading the human resource at KSB Securities. And we also have with us Abrar Ali, who is the HR consultant at New Gen HR Consultancy, who are the ones who have organized this particular panel discussion. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have a very talented, a very diverse, a very academically astute, and a multi-experienced multinational panel with us today. We will be introducing everyone as they come on also, but it will be a shorter introduction due to paucity of time. I would now take this opportunity to start off with Ali Fareed Khwaja Sahab, who is the chairman of KSB Securities from England, UK. Thank you so much, Khwaja Sahab, for joining us. And again, with so much of international exposure, both in the private sector and with international financial institutions, I would just like you to kick off on this particular topic about the importance of technology in human resource management and how you see the future of human resource management globally, and also because you have the exposure of working in Pakistan also in the Pakistan context. I would like to request you, sir, to keep your discussion, but because we are opening up with you, we will give you about 7 minutes over here, extra time, so that you can talk on this topic both internationally and also in the local context. So, Khwaja Sahab, the mic is yours. Thank you so much, Khwaja Sahab.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, and it's a very broad question. So I'll have to parse it down into smaller questions just to keep the answer structured. At a high level, as you mentioned, that because of technology, the whole job market and the labor market is changing because the pace of change in technology is very fast. I'll give you an example. When I joined after Oxford, so I graduated from LUMS, went to Oxford, and then I joined UBS, where I covered three companies, which were Nokia, Ericsson, and Alcatel-Lucent. Back then, these three technology companies were the largest technology companies in Europe, combined market cap of $700 billion. Within 3 years, the whole sector disappeared. So you can imagine hardware moved to Asia and software moved to the US. So you can imagine like the cycles which we thought were 10 years or probably 20 years before became as small as 3 to 5 years. So that has implication on the HR market across the chain, not just for the technology companies themselves, but also for the associated sectors, people, the service providers to the technology companies. And there's lessons within those companies themselves. So when I used to talk to Nokia, their CEO, when Apple launched their product, and I used to ask that, when are you coming with your touch screen? And they said it's just around the corner. We just have to update Symbian operating system. And of course, we know that never happened. So, or at least it didn't happen in time. So what we know now is because of technology, the cycles of a product and the cycle of a career might be as short as 3 to 5 years, and some sectors might be displaced completely, either replaced by technology such as AI, automation, robots, or they might move geographically to some other geography, like in the case of semiconductors, in the case of hardware, they all move to three geographies: China, Taiwan, and Korea. And similarly, software moving to the US. So now the challenge in hiring is that when you are setting up, so I set up a fintech company in Pakistan. KSB has an app called K-Trade, which is the most downloaded investment app in Pakistan. Our mission is to help people make better investment decisions, because we think, precisely for that same reason, because we think that old mentality where you knew that you had a guaranteed job and you retire at 60 and then you get pension after that, I think that paradigm no longer holds true. So it's extremely important for people to have a second job. So when as an employer now, when I'm looking to hire, the first question is that, should we just hire in places where there's specialization in a particular skill? So for example, fintech skills are lacking in Pakistan. So what should we do? Should we just hire in a geography where people do know those skills, like hire in Tel Aviv, hire in Romania, hire in Bulgaria, hire in the UK, or hire in San Francisco? Or even if we are providing our services in Pakistan, or shall we train the people over here and hire them fresh and train them? So and so far it's more the later rather than former. So that is a challenge, that when we are looking to hire people, we know that particular skill set will be lacking. The digital marketing skill set is pretty lacking in Pakistan. We know academically that the stuff which is taught in classroom is often expired. It's past its expiry date before the students even graduate. I did computer science from LUMS. I did C++, and I don't even recognize the names of the technologies which are used now. So there's a constant learning cycle which is much shorter. You have to there's a bigger emphasis on training. The good thing is that people who we have hired in Pakistan, they're actually conscious of these challenges. So what I've noticed is that that people who come from tech background, they realize that it's imperative for their career development to focus on their learning, which is not, and this distinction, this desire to learn is not that much available in other sectors. People coming in finance, people coming in accounting. So in fact, that has created an imbalance that that people in tech want a greater focus on their learnings, while all the other departments in the organization don't value it that much. So that's the that's the 2 cents from my side, that what I see when hiring in Pakistan is that we really need good trainers. In the UK, we have things like General Assembly, where people are trained in particular tools, in particular softwares, in particular frameworks. Such companies at least I have not found such companies in Pakistan where I can send my employees to train them to learn, an SEO tool or a digital marketing tool, or the latest data science software. So there is a need for, because there's a need for continuing learning. There's a need for such training institutions, and those training institutions need to have trainers who have international experience, because some of those skill sets are lacking in Pakistan. Of course, our digital economy is just at very, very early stage. So my fear is that if we don't get those tier 1 trainers and only train the local guys from tier 2 or tier 3 trainers, then we are caught in a trap where the guys who are training themselves don't know, and they have trained people in kind of wrong skill set. So for me, that's the biggest challenge right now, that when I'm doing incremental hiring, shall I do the hiring in Pakistan, or should I just scrap it and hire more people in geographies where I know people have the skill set in that particular area? So those are my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Khwaja Sahab, again for opening up the whole discussion. And again, that was why it was a broad question, because we wanted that someone with your international experience and also national exposure, you basically open up the house for the rest of our panelists and also for our audience to basically assimilate their questions for the day moving forward. I would just like to recap on some of the very important issues that you have raised, especially about the digital marketing skill set and how important it is and how it is lacking right now in countries like Pakistan, and the need to ensure that we have tier 1 trainers who can take that on rather than compromising, and how our educational institutions are again, unfortunately, still working in the past and not working for the future. So again, just like you were sharing, by the time our graduates come into the job market, they already are at a disadvantage. Another very important thing which you started off with was basically how things have geographically moved around the world, and how things are rapidly changing in a product cycle of even sometimes less than 3 years that we see. And the second thing is that how automation is taking over everything, and the role of basically the West, especially the Americas and Asia, moving towards hardware, and the software moving towards the Americas is again a distinguishing factor. And in the next few years, we don't know how this dynamics can also be disrupted with things changing so rapidly. Again, that these are extremely important points, and the imbalances which have been created. And these are the challenges of human resource managers. Again, how should they do the hiring, and then how should they be training things, and how can it be a continuous process of moving ahead? So thank you so much, Fazal, for basically opening up the discussion. We will be asking you a few very specific questions as we move ahead. But now I would like to request another panelist to again talk about her own area of expertise, and also talk about maybe in the context of performance appraisals and job processes. I would like to request Madam Manur Gulzar, who's the head of technical recruitment, Keep Trucking, basically with her very versatile global and local experience, to talk about how she looks at technology, performance appraisals, and also job processes. So Madam Manur Gulzar, we'll first have a 5-minute overview from you, and then we'll be taking specific questions from the audience. So it's over to you, Madam Manur Gulzar.
Thank you so much, Hussain, for giving me this opportunity to talk to the, to the future leaders here. And as Ali was saying, I was actually referred to some of the context that, some of the details that he shared. When we talk about this is a very broader term, and even when we talk about the appraisals or how the job market is evolving, the challenges we face as hiring managers, as HR professionals, they they're very broader. I want to like really put something in the context that they're very they cannot be really broken down into smaller chunks at this point, because the chunks in themselves, even if you break them down, they still are huge topics to talk about, right? When we talk about the appraisals and we talk about retaining the staffs, some of the major problem that comes in here is making sure that first of all you're attracting the top talent, right, in your companies, in your startups, because once you have the top talent, only then you can make sure that the appraisals go in a certain way to make sure that you retain them. So it goes hand in hand. And recruitment and HR, the main challenge here would be is to making sure that we create a diverse environment for all the top talent to come in. There is a huge problem of demand and supply too in the market, with the talent just being evolving and technologies just changing. As Ali mentioned, that some of the technologies they're changing on such a rapid scale that yesterday someone wanted C++ person and now they're just shifting to Python. So I think yes, training and constantly building your employees in order to make sure that that during the appraisals you have something to give back, not just expect of something without giving them the flow or giving them the room and platforms to grow initially. So these are the few things which I would say as one of the most is most of the main challenge when it comes to appraisals and retaining the top talent here. One other thing I would like to add here is, when we talk about how the job processes are changing and how we are attracting those top talents, is to create more diverse environment. Unfortunately, when we talk about diversity, that only comes down to gender equality, or maybe creating more jobs for females than males. I think that the challenge is bigger than that. We do not talk about the candidates who are coming from tier 2, tier 3 universities. We don't talk about candidates who are working from tier 1 universities to say, but they still lack some basic skill set, right? Maybe they come from a humble background. They did not dwell in communication that much, but they were brilliant students. So we should take that time, the opportunity to train them, to get them on board based on the skills and skills they might develop in a couple of months to years time, rather than just looking for a rock star. And I think this is one of the major challenge being an HR personnel or a recruitment professional we face in technology-centric companies. We aim to find someone who is a rock star, who checks all the boxes, who meets all the criterias, and we talk about advancing ourselves, advancing our platforms, using different tools, using different technologies, but we never take the time to invest in those hidden gems and really shape them into becoming the future leaders. And I think this is one of the most important. This is one of the pet peeves for me and for everyone in Keep Trucking here. We really make sure that when we are hiring someone, we work very closely with them to develop them in a way that in a year's time from now, if they look back and they see the processes we followed to make sure they develop. And it starts really at the time of the interviews. Our interview processes processes are also broken. We are not making sure that the candidates are evaluated on what they can offer, rather than just something that we need to fix at that certain point. And to add one more thing here is when we're still on the topic of job scope or attracting the right talent, is that when we have someone on board with us, when we start the interview processes, technology, any companies really, any startups really, we want people who are who have something substantial to put on the table. But we also should not restrict ourselves to more of like years of experience a person may be coming with. right? We have hired people who had just, were fresh out of university, who were just a year out of university, and they still had the soft skills and the technical skills to be part of an ever-growing company to build up the corporate market in Pakistan. So these are the few major challenges in demand and supply, and going back and forth to make sure that we can keep the balance between training, between retaining, between appraisals, and building the diverse team who just doesn't have diversity but also inclusion. And when I talk about inclusion, that is making sure it's merit based, not gender based. It is we involve disabled students, we disabled employees. We make sure that we work for we make sure that we spend our time and resources to find the gems who maybe do not have that good of a soft skill, and maybe they can develop. So these are a few challenges where we really need to look into, and once we do, we will be in a much better space.
Ji, madam, thank you so much for again giving the overview on the importance of recruitment and how you have re-emphasized and reiterated the fact that training is extremely important. But in all of this discussion, some very pertinent issues have been raised by you, including the fact that the focus on tier 1 universities has to move forward with a more inclusive approach towards tier 2 and 3, and also then improving the skill sets, especially in the context of communication with those different students, creating diverse and inclusive environments which are merit based. You also talked about the rockstar syndrome, which is very important because that is what most companies are looking out and become very competitive, especially when we're talking about headhunting. And again, how we should not be emphasizing on the years of experience, but actually on the talent and skills and the abilities of a particular individual, which basically just struck a chord that again, in Pakistan, we are looking at university graduates, but around the world, most companies are not even looking at university graduates. They just pick up kids. I mean, so many school-going kids have been picked up in countries like India and China. I mean, in America and Europe, definitely, and also Japan and Australia, but now countries just across the border with us, China and India, picking up kids who are in O levels or even lesser than that. I mean, we had this rock star 12-year-old in India who was picked up by Google. I think he was 12 years old or something. So again, all of these are very important. And then these issues of demand and supply, and also seeing how you can structure this whole process in retaining this particular talent, and therefore focusing on talent management. So thank you so much again for broadly speaking about all of these areas. And basically, we want our initial panelists to be speaking broadly because that would sort of make our audience come out with many specific questions as we tend to move forward. So thank you so much, Matt. Now moving on to our third panelist, I would now like to request Mr. Haris Salman, who's the technical talent acquisition at Careem, to talk about a little bit more in the context and maybe share some examples, if possible, of how recruitment is changing and how it has changed maybe in the past 5 years, and what is the future of our graduates, especially related to tech companies in Pakistan and the Southeast Asia region and the Middle East. So Haris Salman Sahab, now focusing a little bit more as we move forward, the mic is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity. So over the past 4.5 years, having worked in a local software house and also currently working in a billion-dollar company, I have seen the recruitment challenges that we faced are more or less the same. It's just the size of the problem that has changed over the period of time. So specifically talking about tech sector that I've been a part of, the structural changes have taken place very soon. So while whatever was the in thing a year ago has become obsolete all of a sudden. So it's very important being in the HR to understand what sort of to predict the future to understand what's the next big thing and to start training your internal talent or to start acquiring such talent from the market. So to give you a few examples, like Golang was a programming language that did not exist a few years ago. Currently, most of the companies are looking for candidates who've got experience in this language. Similarly, on the non-tech side, people are moving much faster from tools like Power BI or from Excel to more advanced tools. So it's super important for us to and for the candidates to upskill themselves to continuously learn as the requirements of the industry change. Another thing that has taken place in Pakistan recently is that most of the jobs have become redundant because they've been taken over by AI. So to give you a few examples, like if we had a person who was a talent sourcer or somebody who was shortlisting resumes from the ATS, it's been being done by the ATS now. There are AI-based ATS applicant tracking systems out there who are doing that work for us now. So it's important for not only us to identify what the emerging trends are, but also to communicate those emerging trends with the job market, with the applicants, so that they can upskill themselves and they can also uh, yeah, improve their skill set over the period of time. One thing that has recently changed and which has drastically changed the whole industry in Pakistan is the startup culture. We did not have as many startups previously as we do now. In the past 2 years, Pakistan has seen the highest amount of funding being raised by these startups as compared to our trajectory for 2009 or before that. These startups have a lot to offer, and that's where they align with the generation, with the millennials. Our millennials get bored very easily. They want new tasks every 6 months. We've seen the highest attrition rate in the industry over the past few years, where while our elders used to spend their whole lifetime in the same industry, in the same company, the millennials don't spend more than 6 to 8 months in the company. They get bored, they want to change jobs, they want to move to another organization from there. So it's very important, and it's super important for us to understand that in order to tackle these issues, as a recruiter, as an HR professional, we need to have a job analysis at least every 6 months so that we can understand, are we on the right track or not? Are we hiring the right employees? Are we hiring those people even if they don't possess the necessary skill set right now? Do they have the aptitude to learn? And that's where I completely agree with you. If you take the examples of the likes of Google or Amazon, a college degree is not necessary for somebody to apply there. So it's important for us to also understand that rather than going for a technical education or specialized education, which may become redundant in a year or so, we should start focusing on skills. We should start building skills, and we should start building institutions in the country which can provide this opportunity to the young talent in the industry who can build skills over the period of time. That's my 2 cents on this.
Yes, thank you so much, Haris Iqbal sir. Very kind of you, Haris Salman sir. Very kind of you to talk on the modalities of recruitment and also the current challenges being faced by organizations such as you. Again, the importance of upskilling and training is a common factor in all of our panelists' discussion. They're talking from different perspectives, but again, in a knowledge-based economy and in a new IT-centric world, this has even gained much more significance and has become much more challenging also. Even this is an arena which has drastically changed in the past 5-6 years. You were talking about predicting the future and envisioning the next big thing. You were also talking about how jobs are becoming redundant due to artificial intelligence, and how tracking systems are also being involved in the new market trends which are evolving. And also a very pertinent point which has been raised, and I would like the audience to think about it, is this new startup culture, which are going to be the biggest recruiters maybe in the future, especially when we are talking about Pakistan and the region. And then this attitude of the millennials of only remaining in one company for 6 to 8 years. I already have 6 to 7 questions which have emerged on this particular factor. We've been hit with a lot of questions. I'll still wait till a few more of our panelists give an overview, and then we'll be coming back to this particular area and we'll be knocking on your door. So thank you so much for talking about all of these very important points, and also squaring down upon what are the real issues of recruitment from both sides of the channel, not only as a recruiter, but also as an aspiring prospective employee. We'll now move on to our next panelist. I would like to request Mr. Abbas Ali Iqbal Saab, who's the Chief Executive Officer at Strategic Business Consulting Group, UAE. I would, because we've been talking so much on training and development, I mean, we've been not talking so much, but we've been touching upon it as a common factor. Therefore, Abbas Ali Iqbal Saab, if you could talk a little bit more about how, as a CEO, you look at training and development from a strategic context, and again, what are its different implications, and what is the future in the context of tech companies, and how can we improve training and development in our organizations? So over to you, sir, with your very versatile experience, Abbas Ali Iqbal Saab.
Okay, thank you very much, Hussein. I've been carefully listening to the other panelists as well. And before I talk about training and development, I also run a mid-sized tech company in Karachi. And I also want to verbalize the same concern I've got in getting the right talent. And the bigger challenge is really retaining that talent as well. Now, like our friends over here talked about how the millennials are, their perspective toward jobs is to stay on for 6 to 12 months. That deeply hurts any organization for a mid-sized tech company as well, because we don't look for rock stars. What we do is we develop rock stars. What happens is, as soon as the rock stars is developed, that rock star starts looking for another show and they want to go on and move to another organization. So we've been, me and my partner, we've been using different kind of strategies and ways to retain the talent, but somehow we've been unable to be very successful. There are a few things that have worked in the past 2 or 3 years. So let me just tell you what we have tried. We've tried a lot of training and development. We've tried to bring in more platforms, but as a technology company, there are a number of platforms that you can bring in. Like our software is developed on Java, then our mobile apps are on React Native, then we got SAP's UI5 as well. But after that, after learning all of that, your software engineers want to move on and learn a new platform or work in a new environment. So then we put everyone on a performance bonus as well. Okay, not the company bonus, the performance bonus. That means if you're able to complete your task on time or before time, you get an instant monthly bonus as well. Well, that too didn't really work. I mean, in fact, people were concerned about the amount that we were dispersing, which was quite decent. That didn't work. Then we moved on. One of the ways we've really seen to how we were able to retain people was giving them a premium salary and a package. And I know that's not really the right way, but we haven't really found the right formula as well, and we struggle with retaining people. One of the other things that we also found that has started to work for us is training and development. And it is now that we've moved into e-learning, I think LinkedIn is one of the strongest platforms for e-learning as well, for technology companies as well. So we've started to use that and we've seen a good response. But really coming back down to, again, are people really going to stay back because you're giving them e-learning access on LinkedIn? I don't think so. So we've been struggling a lot. We really work on another skill, that those are the human skills. I think from tier 2 and tier 3 universities, one of the things that we've seen is people lack in human skills. When I talk about human skills, it's basically about, learning about, your professional career, how to grow in your career, how to plan, not have a 6-month vision. What do you want? What's your purpose in your life? How do you, plan and structure your entire career? What is it that you really want to do? All of those things. And somehow I think that's one connection that we've seen with our software engineers that we've started to build over the years, and seen that they've started to think a little differently. And we have created that environment in our organization where we really focus on not just on the job objectives, but also on why they do what they do. Just like what Simon Sinek says in his book, Start with the Why. So we've really started to focus on the purpose of their jobs, and try and link that purpose with the organization's vision as well. So we're still trying, we're still struggling, but somehow we're finding the answers. But I don't think we have the magic formula and the perfect answer as well till now. So that's all from my side. If there are any questions, please go ahead. I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Abbas Ali Iqbal. Again, Juhair, you've really moved the things forward, and we are going now more to brass tacks from a very broad overview. And you've talked about the importance of retaining employees and also of getting the right talent. And we will be taking questions. Just one more panelist, and then we'll open up the house for some very specific questions from all of the panelists. You talked about how job hopping is actually becoming a very big challenge for tech-centric companies. And again, I really like the fact that you were able to share with us that what was your strategy basically to encounter it. So again, it was just like a mini case study unfolding. And I would just like to reiterate it so that people can develop some more questions about these different areas. And you talked about project-based performance bonus to employees, also about teaching new platforms, premium salaries and packages, and then moving on to training and development framework, which is more e-learning focused, linking up with LinkedIn, and then coming out with the magic formula, and that is human skills emphasis, and how you basically were able to identify people lacking in these, and then developing them through an approach of introspection, creating an environment where they could link the purpose of the jobs with the organizational vision, and also moving forward with it, enabling them to understand their own importance and weave their own career in the context of your particular organization. So yeah, excellent.
Exactly.
Thank you so
much.
Very
much. I think you verbalized it better than I did. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Ali Iqbal Sahab, for all of this. And I think you've created a lot of food for thought for all of our audience, and some very interesting questions should be emerging from it. We'll be coming back to all of our panelists for questions, because already dozens of questions are hitting us, and the challenge actually would be to filter through those questions, because I do know that this topic is so important that we could actually spend a whole day on it, and still it won't end. Well, I would now like to move to another honorable panelist, Madam Mariam Ashrat Mahmood Saiba, who's the founder and director of Impact Dynamics, the manager of business incubation at IM Sciences, and lead Google Business Group, Peshawar. Madam, again, because you are dealing with a lot of startups, which has been mentioned by some of our honorable participants already, and how it is creating a challenging structure for those organizations which already exist, but also creating opportunities for those graduates and those people who want to move forward in the market. We would just like to know, Madam, again, from your own experience and your own exposure, especially with the startups, that if you could share with us how these startups are adapting towards innovation, how they are disrupting the market through their own innovation, and what are the challenges that you see in the coming 2-3 years, because rightly said by our keynote speaker in the beginning, that we are talking about cycles of 2-3 years, and maybe in certain cases only a 1-year cycle. So what are the challenges that you see in the context of human resource in the next 2-3 years? So madam, the floor is yours. So Madam Mariam Ashad Mahmood Saiba.
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I mean, representing startups over here and also being a devil's advocate in certain places, not hailing from the corporate sector, there's some, I mean, key important issues that need to be taken into consideration. Besides that, we all need to understand that Pakistan right now is on its way to become a digital first economy. And as of 2018, it has been ranked as one of the countries by Google, the corporation, which is on its way to becoming a digitally first economy. And when I say that, I mean, if you look at the population in Pakistan, especially if you take a look at, the urban sectors, the urban cities, you'll be surprised to hear that we have probably more 3G, 4G users in our urban cities than our neighboring country, India, which is, I think, number 3 or number 4 internationally as far as the internet penetration is concerned. So this is some great news for Pakistan to begin with. So technology, I think anything and everything is, operated by technology. As far as human resources concerned, as far as team building is concerned, as far as work is concerned, we are equally dependent on technology. Our workplace structures, the way people interact, the way people build teams, everything is featured around that. Having said that, the second important thing that I'd like to bring up over here is that, a lot of startups as we speak, because there was a constant, with Ali from KSP, everybody was talking about how there's so many, probably universities or institutes, they lack the skills, in terms of what is relevant to the market. But somebody else, I think Kareem, pointed out that at the same point in time, the skills keep on emerging. And I think that is very true. So I think every other day, after a couple of months, there's some iteration, there's some improvement that is happening. So what we need to understand is, and I'd like to bring up the point of there's so many corporations over here, present over here, we need to adopt strategic partnerships. That is extremely important. And coming from the startup culture, I completely understand the importance of that. The right industrial linkages of academia with these corporations is extremely essential, because books and even creating a stimulating classroom environment can do much, but they can never replace the role of what happens when you partner with these organizations to begin with. Innovation, I believe, can come from the classroom, but not necessarily. Recently in Pakistan, so some great things have happened in COVID. The way we interact, the way we work, even our human resource has greatly changed. And speaking of that, a Pakistani edtech startup by the name of EdCasa, they recently raised in pre-seed funding $350,000. It's an edtech platform, bunch of students who got together with some great idea regarding classroom learning, and they've made it, they've done it. What we have seen in regards to the startup culture and technology and human resource management, especially for small teams, is that remote work is something that has recently emerged. When I say recently, I'm talking about a decade or so. It's a relatively new concept, and it really works for anyone and everyone, for a lot of organizations. What we have also observed is, COVID has been a blessing in so many ways. It has been a blessing in disguise, because COVID has made us realize that, besides work from home, flexible timings, the typical 9 to 5 is not really relevant anytime or every time, or everybody is not designed for a typical 9 to 5. So that is another thing that can be taken into consideration while we speak of it. And besides that, I think the team structures, there's a lot of cross-pollination of ideas when the structures are flat. And usually in the startup culture, you would see a lot of flat structures because the teams are small, or they're micro enterprises. The same would happen in the case of SMEs. And they actually allow for a lot of great idea generation. So, and I also beg to differ when a lot of a lot of people mentioned that, the training needs to happen. We need to train our employees. We need to extract external resource for it. Honestly, I think there's a huge pool bank. We personally conduct trainings through Google Business Group, and I mean, Google has its representation in Pakistan as well now. So I mean, Grow with Google has a ton of free digital marketing training courses to begin with, and free certifications. So I think it's all about connecting the dots, connecting with the right diaspora in the industry, cross collaboration, cross pollination of ideas, especially establishing strategic partnerships. LinkedIn is another great resource, but I mentioned Grow with Google because the resource is absolutely free. There's another one, and I think anybody can write it down for their learning. It's Google's Digital Garage, and they also happen to teach you coding. I know coding, maybe there's so many languages, there's Python, there's so many others. And I strongly believe that besides these technical skills, nobody in fact in any organization, you cannot move forward if you just have a technical set of skill set. I strongly believe that emotional intelligence plays a huge role, a very important role in helping you grow as an individual. Empathy plays a very important role in you understanding what is happening in your organization, your interaction with your colleagues, so on and so forth. When you talk about skills of the future as established by the World Economic Forum and as researched upon, a lot of those skills require creativity, and they are more skills centered around empathy and communication and creativity. So that is a very important component that needs to be plugged in together with technology for us to move forward in organizations, and that is changing the landscape of the entire workspace as well. So a typical 9 to 5, I really think the corporates need to think about it. I mean, flexible work hours, 9 to 5 is so outdated and so cliche to begin with, and I can toot the horn because I'm not from the corporate sector over here. I can definitely point out what is working, what is not working as an outsider. Yeah, so this is what I feel, and this is what I have observed not only in Peshawar. I'm mentoring startups across Pakistan, and I have affiliation with the NIC Islamabad as well. So this is what is happening in the startup culture. Although we are in a very nascent stage as I speak, but I think some great things are happening in Pakistan, and we definitely should acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Mariam Arshad Mahmood Saiba from Peshawar, and for being the devil's advocate and also talking from a totally different perspective. It's always good to have a breath of fresh air from different areas and to open up the window and see how the wonderful spring is emerging. So there's always a different scent all around, and maybe the amalgamation of all of that would create a beautiful perfume for us in Pakistan. So, thank you so much for talking about, again, startups and creating a stimulating classroom environment and learning conducive environments, talking about how remote work has emerged, the cross-pollination of ideas, the new team dynamics, especially in the context of post-COVID, the other platforms for training which are available, like the Google Business Group and its many modules and sub-platforms that it has created. And these are opportunities which are available not only for the youth, but also for other segments of society who have to integrate themselves into this new IT phenomena which is emerging, especially in this decade. And then talking about the importance of EI with AI. So it's not all artificial intelligence and technology, but also emotional intelligence and skill-centered empathy with technology and how it is changing the landscape of different organizations. So again, a very unique perspective coming out. And I think many questions would be emerging, and so many already have emerged in this particular context. So thank you so much, madam. And we look forward to you answering the different questions which will be coming out of this particular discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I will request one more of our panelists to put some light on human resource management, especially in the context of managing change, because All the panelists have talked about change, and they've all talked about how rapidly things are moving and changing, both geographically, both institutionally, both in the context of knowledge, skills, abilities, and competencies, and even attitude, and how we are seeing redundancy basically overtaking creativity also. So on one side there's creativity, on the other side we have a pitfall of redundancy. And then another thing which is that how can you create an environment which can actually retain talent and take them forward with this new startup culture disrupting everything around us. We have with us Shiraz Chaudhary Saab, who is the Human Resources Director at Shopdave Lahore. Sir, I would like you to talk about change management, and because you have so much of experience related to talent acquisition, talent management, talent development, and employee engagement, how do you look at this, at all of these rapid changes which are taking place? Even to take cognizance of all of these changes is a challenge in itself. And how are organizations, tech-centric and even other organizations, coping with this change and managing this change? So we would just like to have a broad overview from you, and then later on we can have some specific questions. So Shiraz Chaudhary Saab, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for giving the opportunity. Everybody is talking about the talent acquisition challenge in the IT industry, or specifically if we talk about the IT companies, and getting the right talent and evaluating the right talent. But we need to, as per my perspective, we need to go back on the base of this problem. So according to me, the gap is between industry and academia. Like the asset that is being produced by the academia is not that what the industry is looking for, because there is a rapid change, as mentioned by you, is in the in IT industry. So specifically, what gap that needs to be filled is there should be a strong collaboration between industry and academia to make sure that this gap is being filled. What are the future requirements? What are the, it's not very much, a long-term requirement, but there is a very rapid communication between industry and academia to make sure what kind of talent is being actually required by the industry. I'll just share a case study. See, a few years back, there's an IT security company in Pakistan. They were come up with the business. They were requiring 1,000 security engineers in Pakistan. That was the business they get into their company. So at that particular time, when they evaluated the market, so there was like 3, 4, 5 other companies that were working in security, and their total employees were around 430 or 450. And then the universities that were actually offering the security course were around 350. So their requirement is of hiring the 1,000 talent security engineers, and the talent that were available at that time in Pakistan was like 700 or 750. So that is the actual gap, and that's why we all struggling to get the right talent. So we should manage this change at the initial level, where the asset is being actually developed by the industry, by the academia, to produce and to give to the IT industry. See, from the change perspective, I'll share from my practical experience. I work in 2 different kind of IT companies. One, I just, working with this company whose revenue was like less than $1 million in a month, in a year. Annually, and then they have grown to the $10 million company. And then I got a chance to work with a company who already being in a $5 million. Now, developing the process and changing the organization with the growth of organization is easy, as compared to when you work with an organization which is already grown and the process and other change related things are not implicated. Like if implementing the change with the growth, you'll get the better results and you get the stability. But once you've grown and you're focusing on changing the process or implementing the process, that is a hard part where you actually implementing the change process. Like while working with one organization, we will be implementing the talent acquisition system, talent management system, making the service delivery to the whole level of paperless environment. It's easy and it's impactful, and it's more adoptable by the people, because people are evolving with the growth of the organization. But in the other organization where the organization is already grown like 250 or plus people, so their change management is more difficult to bring into that. Making the people to adopt to the technology, to new processes is more of the challenging thing. So I guess in that particular scenario, first point is to starting from industrial academia. Then we need to make people understand about the benefits of these changes. Like if organization is growing, the technology is emerging, how these changes can be impactful into their life. Then people are more comfortable to more adopting toward these new environment, new technology, and new innovations they are look for. So yeah, that's from my side. If you have any question, please ask.
Thank you so much, Shiraz Chaudhary Saab, again for highlighting a very important area which was raised initially, but then you have actually elaborated upon it, and is something I think which is being raised by not only the tech industry, but by all the industries and all the sectors in Pakistan, especially that most of our curriculum in universities is archaic, is more memory centric, if not not centric to rote learning. Again, these curriculums are more theoretical in context, rightly said by some of our panelists earlier, can be archaic and not in tune and not in sync with the changing trends. And like you said, that there is this very big gap between the industry and academia. Academia is teaching something else, and the industry wants something else. And when these new recruits go into the industry, then they face a lot of problems, and so do the organizations. And there is a great need, which you emphasized upon, to bridge this gap, to manage that gap, and to create a collaboration between industry and academia. Easier said than done, definitely, because it would really mean revamping and not even re-engineering, but restructuring universities, their curricula, their topics, their methodologies, and also their whole approach towards knowledge and new knowledge, which is cutting edge and innovative. So rightly said, and that is the need. So we have to do away with these archaic processes and systems and curriculums within universities and enable the students to become what we call more employable once they graduate, rather than just have this picture in their drawing room with their beautiful degree and their beautiful black cap. Again, you were talking about identifying the skill sets which are required, of injecting these skill sets into the students within the many years that they spend at universities or at different institutions. You very graciously also shared a case study about talent acquisition and getting the right talent, and also how changes can create a huge impact into the life of employees within organizations. So thank you so much, Shiraz Chaudhary Saab, for talking about all of these points. Very pertinent, and I think that our audience would be asking many questions about this. And also, what is the right way forward, even though you've identified it. But again, even if just yesterday I was looking at some very nice pictures of academia and the industry meeting together, and also the government, the tripartite relationship or the triangular relationship that we are talking about. But then I don't know where all of it tends to evaporate and does not materialize. So there are definitely many issues in this. Thank you so much, sir, for talking about all of this. Ladies and gentlemen, we still have many of our very honorable panelists coming, and they will be discussing. We have Madam Himra Mursal from the UK. We also have Mr. Ruj Sheikh, also from the UK, Shafaq Salim from Karachi, and Ibrar Ali from Lahore. So a very diverse panel who will be talking about the different areas and dwelling upon them. I would, however, like to ask a few questions from our panelists, especially a few of our panelists are already committed somewhere else. I would like to request Mr. Ali Fareed Khwaja Saab. Is Ali Fareed Khwaja Saab still with us? Hello?
Yes, I am.
Yes, thank you so much, Ali Fareed Khwaja Saab, and I hope you're enjoying the discussion, which is emanating from all of this. We will be writing a report on this, so these reports will be sent to all of our panelists, and we really look forward that together we can try to bring forward all of these issues and all of these concerns and all of these opportunities which are being shared by all of you, sirs and madams. And that report will be sent to you, and then you can further build upon that, and we can then have many other webinars and many focus discussion groups on all of this to see how this relationship and these collaborations and these cooperations can lead towards a better IT-centric economy within Pakistan and also globally. So, sir, again, a broad question to you, so that you can again instill some ideas into everyone, and that is that we have been talking about the millenniums, and we've been talking about the youth, and we've been talking about university graduates. We talked about the importance of training. We've talked about the importance of talent. We will be talking on the other areas also of human resource. But coming back to basics again, yes, integrating the millenniums and also creating a conducive environment is extremely important. What type of environment has to be created? Well, those are different questions, but many questions which have been raised, and I would just sort of consolidate them, and that is that how do we include the older generation into this tech-centric economy? I mean, are we going to discard everyone above 30 and say, well, thank you so much, we appreciate your contribution, and we feel that things are moving too rapidly and you might not be able to keep pace with you, so now you're all redundant, and now we're going to replace you with the millennials? Because this generation can be very wary also of technology, can sometimes be resisting technology also, and can have this grave sense of job insecurity. So, sir, with your very versatile experience and also in the very pivotal position that you are in, how would you tend to placate this fear syndrome which is emerging, and also inclusively incorporate them within the new ecosystems which are being created? Sir.
This is a great question. It's a great question and very relevant question. And it has implication for both sides, not just, the first side as in how do you retrain an older employee. So I'm 40 years old and my tech skills are pretty archaic now. Computer science, I did computer science from LUMS in 2003. So A, how do you deal with that? And B, also from a client segment, the products which we are designing, because they are designed on new technologies for younger segment, client cohort, are we excluding out the older generation? So they're very, very, very good questions. I think on the first one, what we have seen that it is difficult to retrain older generation. There's a saying that you can't train an old dog, so perhaps there might be some merit in that. So that certainly is a challenge. If I see at KSB, our average age, we have 100 employees, our average age would be around 32, 31. I'm 40 years old and I'm perhaps one of the oldest people, which is very different from the incumbent companies in my sector. So mostly in financial services, it's typically older guys, and the younger generation is a minority. But because we had to do things differently, and to do it as a fintech company, we ended up with a much younger cohort of people in the employee team. Similarly, on the client segment side, that if we are designing products and reaching out to our customers through channels such as Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, then perhaps we are missing out on a age cohort which is not on these channels. Now the good thing with Pakistan is that majority of the population is below 23 years of age. So the way we think about it is that we are planning the business for the next 10 years, and this is the relevant segment size for us, because in the 10-year period, this cohort would be the one which is more tech savvy, and they would be used to engaging with the products which we are producing. So your concern is pretty relevant, that it is more challenging for people, especially in the age group of 40 plus, because it's more difficult for them to now relearn. In the UK, what I have seen, and this is anecdotal data from my colleagues, especially in the financial sector, where there is this shift happening from traditional financial sector being taken over by fintech and now with blockchain. So I have seen some very senior executives, people who are at the managing director level, so at the top of their career, leaving multi-million-dollar bonuses to start from scratch and learn about blockchain and crypto because they know that's the future, and they want to be relevant in that future. So people are making those sacrifices in terms of leaving their jobs, going back and starting from scratch and relearning. I don't know, I've not seen that yet in Pakistan. I do see that older generation, they try to actually prevent change because they don't want to lose their own turf. But at least in the UK, things are changing.
Thank you so much, sir. Just again, just to sort of make it a little bit more specific, if possible, and naturally, I can understand that some things might be confidential, but if you could share, so what you were talking about, um, specifically in the context of KSB, that how have you managed these challenges, and what were the steps that were taken by KSB, both KSB UK and maybe also the KSB group as a whole, because it's such a large group. What steps did they specifically do which enabled them to overcome these AI tech savvy and also emotional intelligence challenges which exist in this whole change process taking place rapidly in this decade?
So on the age challenge, we haven't, right? Like we haven't dealt with that challenge. What we have ended up is having a younger team, and which is primarily catering perhaps to a younger crowd, because we're hoping that the younger crowd would be our primary crowd in 10 years time. So perhaps we have excluded, the people above 40, at least from an employee, from a team perspective. We what we have seen is that we end up hiring more younger people just because we think that they can learn more quickly. And the point about culture, which was raised, which is very important. I feel that the younger people are more willing to accept the vision and see the vision of the company, and imbibe that, and join the company because of that. In terms of the challenges of AI, again, from an employee perspective, from as a CEO of the business, I'm always trying to automate things. So I want to reduce the number of people rather than hiring more people. I don't want to throw people to solve a problem. I want to use technology to solve that problem. So that certainly, as a CEO, you do that. But from an HR perspective, you try to train your team so that they are the ones who are adopting that technology and not doing repetitive stuff, but doing more creative stuff. So, but that's not a one-time fix. It's a process. It's a process which you keep on doing, and you keep on telling your team as well that I don't want you to do repetitive stuff. Pass the repetitive stuff to a machine, i.e. a software, a tool, and you do more client engagement. And I won't say that it's easy. As I said, it's more difficult to train, especially older people who are more experienced, because they think that what they're doing is the right approach. But that is our biggest, or at least my biggest challenge as a CEO of the company, to continue to replace human effort with technology effort, and shifting the human talent to do more creative, client engaging stuff.
Thank you so much, Khwaja Saab. One last question, which would be more KSB specific again. That where do you see KSB Capital in the next 5 years, and what are the new interventions that you're going to be introducing in the future?
Great question. So thank you for asking that. As I said before, our mission is to democratize investments by giving access to people to investor education, to financial news, and platforms through which they can invest and manage their savings. So we have an app called K-Trade, which has more than 200,000 registered users. We have an online MOOC called KSB Varsity, which is a free course on learning how to invest based on CFA curriculum. So our whole focus as an organization, our target is to provide access to financial market to 1 million people. Right now, only 200,000 people in Pakistan invest in stock, mutual funds, bonds, and commodities. So our target is to grow this market by at least 5x in the near term and 10x in the long term. So what we have done is, this is a mission, so it requires partnerships. So we have done a partnership with Jazz Cash, and we are talking to other partners to grow this network. Engagement with LUMS is a big part of that. So we sponsored LUMS a competition, a stock trading competition called Bulls and Bears. We have done similarly with IBA in Karachi, doing similarly with IBA in Sakhar. We have a student competition called Trading Titans. 1,000 students are participating and learning about investing in that. So it's a lot about evangelism, a lot about outreach. And our mission is that to educate people that they need to think about their investments. So that's our mission and goal.
Thank you, Khwaja. It's really heartening to listen to all of this, and again, how you're contributing in calibrating and also encouraging the future generation to learn hands-on and to move forward in the new technologies which are emerging. And the last piece of advice we would like from you is that could you kindly advise the many hundreds of students who are listening to you right now, 3 things that they should do in the next 2 years?
Thank you for asking that question. I'll pass on the advice which I was given at LUMS when I was in second year by one of our teachers, Khurram Hussain, who's now an editor at Dawn. And he said that the only thing which university teaches you, the undergrad degree teaches you, is how to read a book. That's it. This is a very deep sentence, because that means that LUMS is teaching you that whatever new technology, whatever new subject comes about, you have the training at LUMS that you can read the book and learn about it. That's why you have now we had the quarter system, you have the semester system. Each semester you have a new subject, and by the end of that semester you are an expert in that. So keep that, underline that, that belief that whatever that learning process does not end. So the second point is also linked with that read as much as you can. Read newspapers, economists, books, develop that habit of reading and a habit of learning, because it will be very, very important for you to de-learn a lot of the material which you have learned. As you discussed in this panel, that a lot of the material which you have learned will become irrelevant. So that's why the only skill set which you need to do, which you need to have, is the ability to relearn. And that will only come if you're confident enough to do that, and B, if you have that habit of reading and learning. So, that will be my advice to the students.
Thank you so much, Khwaja Sahab. Great advice. Again, the ability to learn, and then the ability to relearn, and especially for that you have to be more attuned toward reading as a whole, and also to have that passion and motivation to learn as an individual. So thank you so much, Khwaja Sahab. We look forward to further engaging with you, and again to see different opportunities of how we can make our students more globally centric, and also how they can participate in the different new fintechs and the new different tech companies which are emerging, and the startups. So thank you so much, sir, for your hindsight also, and for your insight also, and also for your vision which you have shared in this discussion. Thank you so much, Khwaja Sahab.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I would now like to ask another question, and that question would be focused towards Madam Manur Gulzar Sahiba. And Madam, you were talking about the importance of recruitment and talent acquisition, and again, how things have become so dynamic. How would you look at the situation which is emerging in the COVID-19 and the post-COVID situation, and the changing dynamics of the IT-centric economy? So if you could share with us that how would you propose our students to be prepared for these two scenarios? One is the COVID-19 scenario, because it's just continuing on from one wave to the second to the third, and therefore we are not even into a post-COVID. And then hopefully there should be a post-COVID. And how should the students be prepared in this very uncertain environment, and how can they prepare themselves for the emerging IT-centric economy? So, Madam Manur Gulzar Sahiba.
Thank you, San. I think this is one of very important questions, with things changing so rapidly. I would say that to divide it in two parts for the COVID times, students, especially the graduates, they are in one of the most challenging times to when it comes to look for a new opportunity or start their careers. The one thing they need to they need to work on is first be open to change, be open to learning, and learning is something which doesn't only come during the time when you have been onboarded with a company, or you're in process of hiring with a company. You need to continue learning and go and figure out the technologies which are going to help you in finding in advancing your career on a global level. Now we are working remotely. Some of my team members are working from US, Canada, India, Sahiwal. If we just talk about Pakistan, Sahiwal, Karachi, all these kind of locations. So you need to be flexible when it comes to, finding your career opportunities. You need to be flexible on learning new technologies. You need to be flexible on what the problem is and how you can resolve it, rather than, just being in the mindset that you have. Let's just talk about a software engineer in this scenario. If you think that you have learned a particular technology just in Java, maybe the future is moving towards AI. Someone mentioned about EI. That is a big part of it. So you need to continue building your technology, technical skills, but you need to continue working and developing your soft skills, because they are going to go hand in hand. Especially with us being remote, soft skills are way more important than they were ever before. The more effective communication you have, the more emotionally strong you are, the more critical thinker you are. That's what's going to help you in making your career the plan, or helping you with achieving the goals you have. And when we talk about post-COVID, I think what we are seeing, as we know that IT industry, it's growing rapidly in Pakistan now, and it's here to stay. Next 10 years to be least is the duration when you will see most advancement. So we need to start preparing for that time now. You will see that after the COVID situation is over, demand will increase more. So in order for us to demand, and when I talk about demand, that is looking for more for candidates or students or any employees basically, who have a balance of technical and soft skills. It's very easy to find a technically sound person these days, but to find someone who's technically sound but is also sound in soft skills, that's the biggest challenge. So we need to start preparing for that demand, because that is going to come. Once our offices reopen, we will need more of companies will upscale again. There were, in previous times we saw a lot of companies downsizing. So we think, and I think based in my company in Keep Trucking, we are constantly hiring. We are constantly planning for the next year and the year after. So we just need to, students, they need to keep up with this change. They're especially the ones who are graduating now. I would say that learning never stops, but for them it is even more important that they continue the process of developing their skills by taking different courses, by taking different mentorship programs, to make sure that they're ready when this demand comes back in market, when people want them back in the offices, and be ready for the globalization. We will be going remote. Every company is going remote first. So these are my 2 cents here.
Thank you so much, madam, for a very elaborate answer, and again, also for creating the ground of many more questions to emerge from all of this. One very simple question which was coming again in your context is that basically we have hundreds of thousands of students graduating in 2021, and 2020 was a very uncertain year, and nearly all the universities saw virtual convocations, and this year too we are expecting virtual convocations. And these new hundreds of thousands of students are coming into the job market. So if you could very succinctly give advice to these new graduates who are coming into the job market. Any advice that you want to give? I mean, I could ask you some specific questions on it, but I would actually make it more open-ended for you to give them advice, whatever that you want. I actually have 4 or 5 questions, but it would actually stretch the discussion too much. So I'll keep it open-ended that please give them some advice.
My advice would be, again, we all understand, like all the industry leaders who are sitting here, all the senior professionals who are hiring, they need you guys. We really need you to come and work with us and grow with us. So in order, never, I have been, I'll give you an example when answering this question and giving this advice, because I think people can resonate more with it. We recently had a scenario where a recent graduate, he was just, he just wanted to get in a company and he would apply to every other position. Do not do that. Trust me, you do not want to do that. When recruiters, when HR staff, when leadership, they look at your resumes, when they look at the talent pool they get, you will get more responses. You will get your chances and probability of getting hired by the next by big companies, or by even by mid-sized startups or any other company in that matter, is going to be what you have which the other person doesn't. So write a cover letter, write a small summary, reach out. Do not hesitate to reach out to the leadership. Applying for every other job is something everyone is doing. Don't do that. My advice would be, if you feel that there is a job and you are a better fit for it, and that's going to make your career, that's going to help you grow in your career, reach out to the leadership on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the most used platform. Make your profiles there, be available in the market. Everyone goes on LinkedIn when we are looking for rock stars. There have been times where applicants, yes, they get reviewed, but as you said, there are thousands of graduates coming every year now, right? So it's not possible to sift through all of them. So always write a cover letter, mention, and cover letter shouldn't be talking about, your introduction, that you have a degree from XY university or whatnot. Talk the problems and the challenges you can solve by coming on board for that particular job. And this is something you're actually helping the leadership to make a decision for you and have you come on board with them and grow with them to make an impact. Yeah, that's it from my side.
So, madam, one last follow-up question, and that is that besides their degree, two things that they should focus on besides their degree to get to make them more employable. I mean, we already have heard Ali Fareed Khwaja talking about this passion of learning and reading. So, what is your advice to them? That what should they do to enable? Hello, madam, Madam Mahanur Gulzar. Hello, hello. Hello, Arfa?
I think it is disconnected.
I was disconnected. Okay, no problem. Now I would go on to another question, which has been basically put
Sorry,
specifically.
Hussain, my internet got disconnected. I think I lost you for a second there.
So the follow-up question was very simple. That just like we had Ali Fareed Khwaja talking about the importance of learning and relearning and reading books. What would be your one main advice to all of the students over here, and most of them are graduating students, that they should do to make them more employable?
Soft skills. I cannot emphasize enough. Build your soft skills and critical thinking, and always read about problem solving related matters. They can be in any domain, but these 3 things everyone really needs to upskill on in order to start their career once you graduate.
Thank you so much, madam. Again, very important that it's not all about automation, it's not all about mechanics, and it's not all about mathematics. soft skills are extremely important, and critical thinking to further augment that. Thank you so much, madam. We will stay in touch with you, and we really do look forward to a follow-up webinar emerging from this particular one. Thank you so much, madam, for being with us. I would now like to put a question which has been specifically asked from Madam Mariam Arshad Mahmood Saiba, and the question is that is a very specific question that usually we see that job descriptions are very mechanical. Now, how do we engrave the emotional topography into our job descriptions, and how can we make it more balanced and implementable? Madam Mariam Arshad Mahmood Saiba, the question is towards you.
Thank you so much for this question. I think it's a great question. And I like to give the example of community building and maintaining a very, maintaining a great environment, maintaining a great culture in any organization. And I'd like to quote Facebook over here. So it's never mentioned the emotional quotient or bringing in, the emotional skill is never directly mentioned in a job description. But how great companies nowadays, and this is what the tech companies are doing, this is what Google is doing, this is what Facebook is doing, they mention what the requirements, and the requirements suggest or state that, for example, SQL or the other technical bits. And then there's another section of what we're looking for. And they would mention, for example, somebody who's very enthusiastic, somebody who's committed to their work, can cross collaborate in teams. So that way your communication skills or your soft skills, they come in perspective. And this is how the new JDs are being designed by companies who are progressive, by companies who really want to move forward. But more importantly, keeping the landscape of Pakistan in consideration, I think Telenor in Pakistan is doing a fantabulous job as far as maintaining a great community of the employees, maintaining a great community culture is concerned. Their policies and even in respect to their hiring is pretty interesting to begin with. And I think a lot can happen at the time of the interview as well. Design things in such a fashion, ask questions about, their perspective, their thoughts on community building, or things that matter to the organization, or things that matter to them as person, because when we're joining an organization, any organization for that matter, we're actually becoming a part of their culture. We're building that culture with the organization and within the organization, and we're resonating with the ethos of the organization. So every individual has a specific set of qualities, a specific set of characteristics that will or can be required by the company. But when I say qualities, we're not just talking about the tech skills, because tech skills can be learned, but soft skills are something that are equally important and that will help the company grow forward, mature, So Google, I love them for how they actually interview the employees. So basically there are 3 different interviews that they conduct, generally. And they look for Googliness, and there's no certain formula for Googliness in an employee. It could vary, it could be different for any and every other person, but they do look for how positive a person is, how happy they are to help their other peers in an organization, and that is absolutely through a set of questions in the interview. Like you have a heart-to-heart with the other person. This is exactly how the interviews are. So Microsoft is very conventional in its ways. And I'm drawing a comparison because I just gave 2 examples of tech companies. So Microsoft is another tech company. They might be very conventional in their ways, but they're also centering the work around community building. They're being more loud about it, now as part of their hiring. So yeah, I hope this answers the question.
Yes, thank you so much, madam. We have many questions, but we have Madam Himra Mursal, who's the Human Resource Director, Recruitment Kaiser from Berkshire, UK. We have introduced Madam very elaborately in the beginning of the webinar. Madam has a very versatile experience working around the world in the top Fortune 500 organizations, and she has to go for another meeting. I would like to request Madam Nimra Mursal to talk about workplace diversity and again about managing change and in this new work dynamics where job hopping is so common, which is such a common practice in millennials. What are the steps that Reckitt Kaiser has taken to ensure that they can manage this talent and retain it in a better way? So, Madam Himra Mursal, thank you so much, Madam, for waiting.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Just a quick correction that I'm based in Pakistan, while the company is based in UK, but I'm part of the Pakistan business. You've asked me a lot of questions, so I'll try to go step by step. And I was just actually looking at, what are the challenges that we as HR feel. And I think one of the biggest is that, and as HR professionals, people, if we don't understand the business, we will not get the seat at the table. So that's important to be a board member there. You've talked about diversity. I've heard other presenters talking about, because they're linked to tech firms. We're not a tech firm. We're FMCG. We're in the business of health, nutrition, and hygiene. So when you talk about diversity, I would first of all like to clarify that it's not just the gender diversity. It's the diversity of age, because I also heard about not being able to teach the older generation, to which I disagree to some extent, because there are ways on how you can do that. Then, of course, there's the age, gender, then, of course, the ethnicity and the cultural diversity that people bring in. And from this perspective, there's been a lot of research with some of the companies, over 40 companies that are gender diverse. They're 40% more likely to perform better as compared to those that are less diverse in terms of gender. And companies that are, more ethnically and culturally more diverse, they are likely to be 36 or 35% more likely to be profitable than those that are not. So this is the importance of diversity. But one, stigma that we have in Pakistan and generally, across the world, that if you have more diversity numbers, then it's better. No. So there are a lot of interventions that, you need to move around. For example, if you have a generation which consists of late millennials or baby boomers, etc. There's a different way. If you want to teach them technology, you start with little things while their courses, etc. But you really need to encourage them to start doing those courses. So you can actually look at reverse mentoring. If you have the younger generation in your organization, and that is something when I joined Reckitt back in 2019. That is something that I also introduced, and surprisingly, people who were 40 plus, they actually enjoyed VR. We had some online tools that the younger generation, the management trainees and people with 1 to 2 years of work experience, they were actually training them. So I think from that perspective, when you're looking at diversity, you need to take a holistic approach, that diversity alone is not enough. It's just a concept, and this concept needs to dance well with inclusion. So it's not about, if I hire, X many, females or transgenders into the organization. It is about how do we include them? How do we take care of their needs? Just to give an example, before I joined, there were not a lot of mothers, in the organization, because Reckitt has a relatively younger population. And then we figured out that, of course, when mothers are returning back, there's certain needs they require. So we came up with this, in-house nursery so that, they can take care of the little baby. Then we also looked into, can we give a daycare allowance? If we don't have a daycare in the building, can we allow a daycare allowance? Especially around COVID, we are not allowing kids to come to the work. How we further facilitated them with a nanny allowance. So you need to look at all the opportunity areas. I'm not saying do anything big, but small actions, they do create a big difference. I hope I'm able to respond to your diversity question, Mr. Hussain. And the second one, you asked about the talent retention and how Reckitt does it. I can give few examples. I'm not that old in Reckitt, but the people who have been in the organization 13, 15 years, when I asked them that, what keeps you glued to this organization, because it's a very fast-paced organization, and the kind of change that happens in this organization is so fast. 2 years ago, we were two separate, business units, and then, last year we became 3 business units. So every year we're experiencing some sort of the change. And I think the one thing that people came up with, it's the kind of care the company takes of these employees and the kind of careers that it provides. After a few years, you do get an export opportunity, an international opportunity. In our management committee or the XCOM, whatever terminologies that you guys use, there's not a single member in the ManCom who has not had international experience. For example, our general manager, he's served in the UK office, he's been in South Africa and the Middle East. I worked in UK, Turkey, and Singapore in my previous organizations. Then, we've had a marketing director, our head of supply services who worked in the Middle East. Our sales director has had Middle East and Africa exposure. Then even from the manufacturing, there's exposure of Africa, Pakistan, Middle East, and UK. So this is when you say diversity, this is what diversity is. And that kind of brings in diversity of thoughts. So I think somebody, and you did ask about, the important things that people need to be aware of. You need to be open, you need to be mobile in terms of getting the exposure. It's not necessary that you would only get exposure in Pakistan. Within the same company while sitting in Pakistan, I know a lot of people who are doing international roles while sitting in Pakistan. And I think COVID has really helped in terms of us being more virtual and being more productive around that. So I think our USP, if I were to say that differentiates us from our competitors, is the way we nurture our talent, because, it's a very lean organization. I'm handling 3 portfolios at this point in time. So in addition to HR, I'm handling at the admin part, I'm also heading the commercial environment, health and safety. So it's a kind of fast-paced environment, and the exposure that you get, you're so empowered that you try to bring in that entrepreneurial spirit, which I think is very important, even for the young graduates who are coming into the workforce. That entrepreneurial mindset is extremely important. And then, being patient, because, if you're good, if you have the potential, the company will see it and the company will grow you further. So that's the bit on the talent retention. Then you talked about job hopping. I can give an example. When I was studying in London, I was studying at King's College, and I was looking for internships and, trying to look for some opportunities. I found out that, I was talking to one of the consultants, and that consultant said, while I was looking at some of the profiles, that, there's so many people who just change jobs after 2 years, 3 years. And it's common. So I think this, as organizations, the sooner we adapt to this, the better it is. But having said that, I would not call job hopping just for the sake of job hopping, that you find, few more thousands in the salaries, because, compensation is probably one of the bottom 10 areas why people stay in an organization. Why people stay in an organization is their culture, their line manager, because 90% of the people leave because of their line managers. That's a study by the Harvard Business Review. So you need to provide that right support system to actually retain these people. And it's okay to make mistakes. So if your first organization, you feel that this organization is not for you. Last year I hired somebody, and within 4 months, the person realized that Reckitt is not for this individual because of the fast-paced, turnaround that we have in terms of our work. We try to do everything now. So I think it's okay to realize that and join an organization that best matches with your, purpose. One thing, when I talk to graduates, and this is the first, we're actually the market leaders in terms of the virtual end-to-end recruitment that we did for our graduate trainee, known as League of Game Changers. And whenever I ask people why are they choosing Reckitt, and another bit on the USP is that the brands speak to them. Every single brand that we have in the organization comes with a purpose, and we also expect the younger generation, when they're coming in, to have a purpose. It's not only about technology, but it's also to have a purpose and see whether your purpose matches with the organization's purpose. I think that's important. And that also brings diversity, again, connected to, talent retention. And then, of course, how we're able to attract the talent.
Thank you, Himran Wasil. Really very elaborately expressed and could not have been more succinct. You talked about so many areas, again, with reference to Rakuten Kaiser. And because we have a follow-up question, rather than asking later on, I would like to ask that question right now, that what are the three things that Rakuten Kaiser looks in their MTOs? What are the three most important things that you're looking at?
Well, if you ask me as HR director, what I look, and a lot of students also ask me this because, you know, I'm a mentor to a lot of young graduates as well. The first thing that I always tell people, and this I've seen because I was also a management trainee at one point in my career. So I think it's the right attitude, the willingness to learn that you have. You know, it's easier to learn a skill, but if you don't have the will, it's very difficult. So I think the first thing that we look at is that, you know, you have the right attitude. One of the panelists did talk about that, you know, yes, you go to a good university because you need to have a proper degree because that's important. But when you come in the professional field, you are competing with a lot of people. So I think that is important. You can't say that, you know, oh, I'm from LUMS and, you know, I've already been groomed to do this. But the reality is very different. And I've seen people who don't learn to adapt, they fail. And it's okay to fail because, you know, you get to learn. The other bit that you've talked about in terms of what we look at the MTOs would be the entrepreneurial spirit. And this is not just for the management trainees. We are very selective when we bring in interns and the management trainees. One pride that we take as Reckitt is that we handpick talent. We don't just say, okay, you've interviewed like 15 people. As a GM or as HR director, I do not need to meet. So every single intern and the management trainee that we've shortlisted, you know, they have to go through the final round with the general manager. That is how careful we are in terms of that. And of course, the third part is that when you come as management trainee, you're given a rigorous rotation into different parts of the commercial business as well as the partner functions. So be commercial. Even if you're coming as a management trainee for HR, I tell people that, you know, the reason why you're not able to take a seat at the table is because you're not talking business. And even if you bring in the best technology, even you bring in the AI on the table, and if it does not make business sense, business will not pick that. So know your numbers. It's very important to know your numbers, and you need to be more adaptable. So I think these are the top three things that I can think of. Another bit that I would like to add with respect to the attitude, I think that would be, it's okay to fail. A lot of times people would say, oh, you know, I've made a mistake. Now what's going to happen? It's okay. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes. You know, at the peak of my career, I've fallen twice in my career, rock bottom, and then I've gained, you know, progressed upwards. So it's okay to fail because you'll only learn. Yeah, but don't repeat those mistakes again.
Thank you so much, madam, for being so candid and again for sharing these three very important points, which I hope all of the graduating students would drill into themselves and make sure that they learn to adapt and also learn to fail. So there's no harm in adapting and failing and then moving ahead. But learning from failures is very important and not repeating them, because then that would lead to chaos and also to many other things. So thank you so much, madam. We have many questions, and like I mentioned to our other honorable panelists, that we will be having a follow-up session on this, and we will be inviting you again to a more specific webinar, because HR is such a broad topic that it's everything under the sun, and streamlining it becomes a challenge in itself. But thank you so much for your very candid overview of the different aspects of Rakuten Kaiser, and also of the other side of the picture, that what should the prospective employees be thinking and doing and gearing up to. Thank you so much, madam. I will be moving forward. There are many questions, and depending upon our panelists.
Sir, you are muted.
So you have been muted.
Yeah, sorry. And we are trying to maintain also the time. So one more question, and then we'll request our panelist, Mr. Osama Hassan, who is from Tetra Pak and the Global Process Coach Talent Acquisition. But first, a question which has been put towards, there's so many that it's becoming difficult even assimilating them. To Mr. Abbas Ali Iqbal Saab, the Chief Executive Officer of Strategic Business Consulting Group UAE. Is Ali Iqbal Saab with us? Is Ali Iqbal Saab with us?
He left, sir.
All right. That was a question which is there. We'll ask him again. We are very fortunate to have with us Osama Hassan Saab, who's the Global Process Coach Talent Acquisition at Tetra Pak. He has extensive experience working in Pakistan and abroad, and he has worked in the different industries and also is an enthusiast, is an HR enthusiast with engineering and general management education. He is specialized in insights and analyticals and has been working in different organizations in Pakistan. I would like to request Osama Hassan Saab that we've talked a lot about talent acquisition, but I would just like you, Osama Hassan Saab, if you could elaborate on how you tend to how you actually retain this talent, and secondly, how do you evaluate this talent? I mean, if you could share with us some important elements of performance management based upon your own experience, we would be very grateful. So the floor is with Osama Hassan Saab. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hussain. So first of all, thank you, Adil, for inviting me for the session. Unfortunately, I couldn't join, and then luckily I was able to make it to the call today. When you talk about retaining talent, I think the very first thing does start at talent acquisition, and that is where the recruiters come in place, where what the guardians and custodians of what kind of people are we bringing into the organization, what the culture is going to be in the upcoming years, because someone who is going to be hired as a management trainee is going to go up the ranks and would be part of the executive board and the committee of the company. So that's very important to have the right skill type of people. And I think companies also need to realize that what is that company looking for and what is that company type. So you can't be a Toyota and you hire someone who is a Mercedes. So the pace of the person and the pace of the organization has to match, and it goes both ways. If you're a fast-paced organization, you cannot hire people who like to go slow in life, or vice versa. So I think that is where you actually start to retain people, because you need to give those people the same kind of environment and the same kind of opportunities and culture which they are looking forward to, and which will keep them excited. And with organizations I know who don't pay the top-notch salaries, but still they have people who never leave the organization. Why? Because there are opportunities of learning, there are opportunities of exciting assignments which they get to work on. Like my organization, we get to work and deal with people from all over the world. So that is something which does keep us engaged in our organization. And also I think the people management experience and the people managers are a highly crucial element, without the success of which you cannot retain the company. And culture has a buck stopping at your people manager. If your people manager isn't great, and if you don't have a personal connect with the people managers, you might not want to work with that organization. And most of the times we do read about those memes, and we see those memes online that people do leave because of the quality of supervision they receive. So that's very important. So I think if you want to retain good talent, you need to have the right skill set in your people managers, and that's where the company needs to invest in. And also you need to have your culture and values really ingrained into the organization, not just being there on the display boards and being there on social media. Unfortunately, I've seen quite a lot of companies trying to portray what culture they have on social media, but in reality, that doesn't happen because people don't practice those values. So the retention does come through the real work, through the real relationship, through the human interaction. When your manager is human to you, when your manager understands what flexibility you need and what kind of assignments you would need. You need to be challenged, you need to be developed, you need to be provided opportunities for learning, and I think that's how you can retain good talent. Talking about evaluation, I think it's very important to set expectations of what are we expecting. And also, I think the most important element is we need to realize and we need to understand that what got us here won't get us there. If we are doing the same thing for the last many years, we would still be where we are and we would never grow up as an organization or as a person. So every year we have to stretch our targets. Every year we have to go above it and over in your overall responsibilities. And also there has to be a variety of work. So when you talk about work, it is definitely certain roles are operations, but then there are certain flavors of projects. There are certain flavors of some cross functional assignments or some cross team assignments, which do add some flavor and some fun to the work. So I think that combination and composition of work assignments in your job and day is really important, because without that, people will get monotonous. And majority of the people don't like to go into monotony, but yes, there is a fair chunk of people who do like that as well. So need to understand what kind of roles do we need and what kind of people do we need. And that's how you bring it in the right talent, you retain them, and you do evaluate them. One important element probably I missed about retention is also your performance evaluation. If good talent doesn't get right feedback at the right time and doesn't get the, for example, if someone is more analytical, and if you're going to give that person an emotional feedback, that might not fly very well. So you need to understand, okay, what is my team member's type personality, and what is the rationale which this person is going to understand. So you need to connect and communicate with the people in their own language. So that's very important. And I think that's how performance management and employee retention works for good organizations.
Thank you so much, Osama Hassan Saab. Again, you talked about talent acquisition and also talent retention, and you were talking about practicing values, which unfortunately many organizations do not do, rightly said. You were talking about creating a challenging environment. You were talking about the human context. All of these things, over and above the systems and processes which exist, are extremely important, and everything cannot just be carved out in SOPs and manuals. It has to have a human touch, which you were mentioning, and that is very important, I think so. Again, thank you so much for elaborating on performance evaluation, and again talking about stretching expectations, having a variety of work, cross-functional assignments, and at the end, extremely important, giving right feedback at the right time is extremely important. There was a follow-up, and there is a follow-up question, which actually I would ask you right now rather than coming back after the other panelists. And that question which has been asked is a very specific question, and the question is that what are the different elements of performance evaluation in Tetra Pak, if it could be shared? Like at Tetra Pak, let's say, if you are looking at new employees who have been recruited, then what would be the maybe 5 elements that you are looking at when you are evaluating at the end of the year, or maybe at the end of the quarter, or whatever context that you have? So what would be those 5 elements? And I would just take it one step forward also, because we have many people from middle management also over here as audience, that in Tetra Pak, what are the 5 elements that you look at in the middle management? Generally, I'm not talking about the specialized elements. I'm talking about the general elements that you would be looking at for the middle management. So for new recruits, and then when they become middle management, the context would definitely be changing. The texture would be changing. So what are the 5 elements when you are evaluating the new recruits, and then when they become middle managers, how do you look at that? So it's a very specific question to you. Thank you so much. Very kind of you, Sama.
Right. So interesting questions. I think when it comes to the performance management at Tetra Pak, we believe less is more. We try to keep it simple. We don't overcomplicate it. So we have a very simple understanding. So there is our business objectives, which we call individual objectives or IOs. And then we have the leadership behaviors. Talking about IOs, we have only 3 IOs. So you only set 3 objectives, and that's what you try to achieve. We don't make a list of 6 or 10 things, and then we try to just bare minimum achieve everything or anything. That doesn't happen. So we expect that 3 objectives, and you try to overachieve them. So that's how we have kept it simple and kept it very basic, so that people can be more dynamic and can be more productive and capable in delivering those. And talking about these 3 adjectives, these are our leadership behaviors: dynamic, productive, and capable. And there are specific behaviors of each element of how this expectation is to be from an individual contributor or from a people manager. So there is a complete guide of what these behaviors would look like and how people would be reacting in certain situations based upon which the evaluation is done. So our variable pay or our performance reward is also linked both on the leadership behaviors displayed by employees as well as the individual objectives achieved for the business. So that's how we keep that balance. I've seen organizations where there used to be 5 objectives, there used to be 6 objectives, and there used to be 1 objective, and that objective being split into many things. So at the end of the year, when you try to evaluate and fill in your form, you're like, okay, I'm all over the place and I don't know what was the core focus. And probably one of the important feedbacks I got from the last year from my boss was that I've done a great job, but you need to reduce on what you're taking on your plate, because you need to focus on less and do it the best you can while you're doing great, but still do less, because otherwise you will exhaust yourself. So that balance is also very important, which we in our organization do try to maintain, and we do try to strike that balance, that we don't burn ourselves out. So that's how the performance management works at Tetra Pak. Talking about the middle management, again, there are, it's the same process. There are individual objectives, but there are leadership behaviors. However, the leadership behaviors are quite different for the people managers. For example, if people manage, I can give you one example about people managers is a people manager should not discourage his or her team member to apply for other jobs or to look for other opportunities. That is a negative leadership element. We foresee it like that, because people managers should be encouraging people to pursue their career and to drive their career. So that is one example. Likewise, the people managers should be looking at the productivity of every decision they make, be it travel, be it any of the meetings if they are really needed face-to-face, because we do used to spend quite a lot of money in terms of international travel and international trainings. So now what we're doing is we're looking for reasonable alternatives wherever it is required for business. Definitely it is happening, but it has to be business critical and it is needed to be understood by the people manager level. So that authority and that decision making we have delegated to our people managers. In fact, the authority of what the bonus and the increment of an employee should be is also with every manager. The head of the department does not decide that. We have to trickle it down to the line manager. Your immediate boss decides what increment a person would get, what bonus a person would get. So that's the responsibility which when we give you authority, we also give you responsibility. That's how we will enter Tetra Pak.
Excellent. Again, a very complex and again a very detailed structure which you have shared in such a beautiful way, emphasizing upon empowerment and emphasizing upon personal objectives and on simplicity rather than complexity. Because sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times, the performance management systems are so complex that even the people who have who are the architectures of that, they don't even understand it themselves, and they make it so ambiguous, especially in the 360-degree context, that everyone gets confused, and that leads to more subjectivity than objectivity at the end of the day. So thank you so much for sharing the Tetra Pak model with us and also elaborating upon it. We have many follow-up questions, but maybe we would be asking you in our next session, or maybe in a special session that we'll have with you. So thank you so much, Osama, and thank you so much for sharing the other frameworks also earlier on, and for answering this question so simply and again so succinctly. Very kind of you. Well, I'll be moving on, and we'll be taking. And we'll be taking our last panelist, who is Mr. Abrar Ali, who is the HR consultant at NewGen HR Consultancy. He basically is a student at LUMS, and he is one of the founding directors of NewGen Consultants. I would like Abrar Ali, after you have heard so many of our experts, both locally and globally, and with so much of diverse experiences, and they've shared so much of knowledge with all of us. I would like you to share your perspective as someone who's going to be going into the job market in this COVID or this post-COVID scenario, and there is so much uncertainty around you. What is your perspective, and what are your expectations as a new recruit in some company? If you could share that with us, but in less than 5 minutes, please. Thank you so much, Abrar Ali.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me the mic. I would like to continue my discussion from Sir Shiraz's point, who talked about that there exists a certain gap between what academia and universities are producing for the market and what markets actually require from their employees. In this specific scenario, there exists different, on the aspect of HRM, there is a duty of care for the safety and well-being of their employees. As going into that market, a challenge for me would be to know that the skills that I'm trying to acquire in these 4 years of my university, they are those skills that the workforce is asking from me. So yahan par the gap, the communication gap that would exist between me and my employer, that's a very significant thing that I have taken from this webinar, that I should be able to not only rely on the courses that I'm taking in my university, but I should also focus on my own personal career, see that where do I want to be and how can I get there. And in order to get there, my academic my academic progress shouldn't be the only thing. I should be working side by side on my own self, on my own soft skills, along with technical and craft skills to help me provide value, add value in that organization in a better way. Apart from that, another thing that concerns me is the safety and well-being in a working environment. Being a new worker in any organization surely comes with different mental barriers that we have to overcome. And in that scenario, having nervous breakdowns, which leads to lower productivity and lower profitability of the overall company, it just really dulls the mood of the new worker and also hampers the work culture of the organization. So in order to better cope with them, HRM, the duty of care I was talking about earlier, that HRM has a duty of care that they should be able to counsel their workers in case that they are feeling more fatigued or they're Zoom fatigue because they do not have that flexibility in their working hours or the working conditions, which should be provided to them, especially in the post-COVID scenario where we are working virtually and we do not have that specific uh, work environment, that office environment that leads to a specific bonding with between the teams and allows them to work cohesively on any uh, project or assignment or work that they're doing. So in this scenario, the education of employees, that is very important about their own mental health. Where do they stand? What things make them uncomfortable, which things make them in which scenarios do they feel more comfortable, and how can they use and how can I use my comfort spaces to grow in the spaces where I'm not comfortable working in. So all of these things, I have gathered some very crucial pointers for myself stepping into the HRM field in the coming summer semester, and I really thank all the speakers and my mentor Sayyid Hussain Heather for organizing us and leading us to this point where we are today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Ibrar Ali, and again for summarizing the aspirations and the apprehensions of the future generation. Again, you were talking about understanding the gap, identifying the gap, and then focusing on the gap and acquiring those elements which are necessary for you to be better placed as a prospective employee in the job market in the coming months and in the coming years, and also to acquire soft and technical skills and competencies and maximizing on optimizing on all of them. But another very important aspect which we did not hear today, but you have brought it up at the end, is the safety and well-being in any organization. That is extremely important. And again, how you look at this side of the coin, in which there are many expectations and there are many aspirations, and again there are many dreams of that employee wanting to become successful, wanting to excel, wanting to really churn out all of what he or she has accumulated in these nearly 22 years of schooling, which had started from home, goes to school, goes to college, and now in university, and now they are in some organization. So again, to create that conducive environment, that welcoming environment, which has been talked about by you very astutely. So again, thank you so much, Ebrar, for mentioning all of this. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic that we basically were dwelling upon can go on for days and days. We inshallah will be coming up with another follow-up webinar, more specific webinar. I am very grateful to the New Gen HR Consultancy, to Mohammad Adil Amir, to Sayyid Shoaib Ahmed, to Hassan Amar, to Arbaz Akbar, and to Abrar Ali, who are all directors in this particular HR consultancy, and they are the ones who basically organized and coordinated this wonderful panel discussion which has taken place on the challenges of human resource management in tech-centric organizations. We are very grateful to Haris Salman from Kareem, Ali Farid Khwaja from KSB Securities, Mariam Ahmed Mahmood from Impact Dynamics and I am Sciences Peshawar, to Abbas Ali Iqbal Saab, Strategic Business Consulting Group UAE, Shiraz Chaudhary from ShopDev Lahore, Manur Gulzar from Peep Chuckin, to Himra Mursal from Reckitt and Kaiser, Osama Hassan from Tetra Pak, and also Abrar Ali from NewGen HR Consultancy. We are also grateful to many of our other panelists who, due to some unfortunate reasons, could not connect with us, and we have been assured that they will be joining us in our coming sessions. I would like to also appreciate the audience and all of the students who have been a part of this discussion, and for basically churning out so many questions, but definitely due to paucity of time, those questions could not be asked. Again, on behalf of LUMS and on behalf of NewGen HR Consultancy, I would like to thank all of you, the audience, the organizers, the panelists, and also the teaching assistants Arfa and Sharik. Sharik is in Faisalabad again. That's the beauty of the virtual environment. And Arfa is over here. They've been working day and night with the NewGen team to ensure that all of this unfolds professionally, and also that all of us have a very enriching intellectual experience in understanding human resource in the context of technology and technology-centric organizations. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And thank you so much, very honorable panelists. It was a great pleasure to listen to all of you and to learn so much from your individual experiences and also from your exposure. We look forward to connect again. We'll be checking out. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Enjoy yourselves. Keep safe. COVID is around. It's very important to follow all the protocols and to ensure that we keep ourselves and our families safe. Have a very wonderful Ramadan and an even better Eid in the coming days. Looking forward to stay connected. Pakistan, Zindabad.
Sir, can you
Thank you so much.
Sir, can we stay for a minute for a photograph?
Yes, absolutely. Recording band kar lijiyega, please.
Okay, sir.
Stop the recording, please.
So can we also have our cameras on? I guess most of us
Yeah,
have.
the recording is still on. Could someone switch off the recording, please?
Sir, the recording is on. Yes, the recording is turned off now.
And could you kindly call Sharik and Arfa also in the picture, please?
Yes, I have requested them. Yes, they've also turned on the cameras. Thank you so much, and I'll be taking a photograph now in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay.